How are you, everybody who is watching this video? Very happy to have you today in this class. And let me take this opportunity to welcome some of the physical engineering students in this class. And also, let me welcome all the online who are not actual physical in this class. To learn, just let me welcome you to learn about electronics and telecommunication engineering. And today we are in sections of telecommunication engineering, and we have a module that's called the Electronics Communication Laboratory. It's very interesting. It's a kind of theoretical, simulation, and a practical module. So in case that you would like to interact with us, you may interact with us anytime by either asking questions or clarifications about a particular point. So if this is your first video that you're watching, then I would like to ask you that just to go to the playlist written Electronics Communication Laboratory, where you'll find Workshop 0, which we have already covered before this one. Because these contents, we arrange them systematically in order to help students to understand and keep learning about telecommunication engineering. So if that's the case, this is theory. We are still introducing about them, what are we going to cover, or what you have been given in order to cover. So take your pen, take your pencil, and then take your fresh mind. Let us go to the business. So the module is called Electronics Communication Laboratory. So one of the modules that we are teaching first year student in bachelor in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering at Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology. We are in chapter 1. We are going to learn 7 chapters that I will mention later on in this workshop. And this is chapter 1 that's called the General Introductions of Electronics Communication Laboratory. And we are in workshop 1. We are done with workshop 0. And this workshop 1 is called Related Tasks. Sometimes we call it workbenches of sub-enabling outcomes of Electronics Communication Laboratory. So it's a detailed information about what we have covered in sub-enabling outcome. But before just I do the quick review of workshop 0, let me greet some students that I have here. I don't know if they are fine or they are happy. I'm not sure. But they will present themselves. How are you, class? How are you, class? Yes. So that is the voice of more than 50 students. Okay. So in previous workshop, which is workshop 0, we say that this module, it has a particular code. Module code is very important. Module code. We say it is ETU, what? 072225, isn't it? E stands for electronics, T stands for telecommunication, U stands for undergraduate, 07 stands for NTA level 7, 2 stands for semester 2, 2 stands for revision or the versions of the curriculum, and 5 stands for the module code number in the curriculum. Then I presented to you and I told you that this module has credits of 40, credits of 12 credits. But also one thing which I haven't mentioned, that the learning hours for this module in a week for each stream is 7 hours. So if you have 2 streams, it means that the learning hours in a week is 14 hours. So for each stream, we have 81, learning hours is 7 hours. And then for 82, learning hours is 7 hours. So it means that's why that we have a class of 4 hours and a class of 43 hours. I did not mention this one. Then we discussed, or I mentioned to you about sub-enabling outcomes. Sub-enabling outcomes. We say that in this module, according to the curriculum, we have 5 sub-enabling outcomes. The first one is actually tell us to employ what? Employ knowledge and what? Skills of what? Electronics and telecommunication engineering. To do what? To construct, to construct what, student? Analogy and the digital circuits. So I told you that this is still a general sentence because analogy, it's a broad field. Analog circuit, we have a number of analog circuits. Digital circuits, we have a number of digital circuits. So today, when I will teach about related tasking, then you'll see that which analog circuits that we have to cover and which digital circuits that we have to cover. The second one, we have been told to do what? To employ or to use? Use what? Tools and equipment of what? Electronics and telecommunication. To do what? To measure electrical. Speak loudly. Electrical parameters. Say electrical parameters. Yes, at least you seem like you are healthy. Electrical parameters. So we don't know which electrical parameters because we have a number of electrical parameters in electronics. So the sentence is still also general, too much general. Which electrical parameters that should we deal in this module? So that the question might come to the mind of the serious student. Then we have also the third sub-enabling outcome, which actually tell us we have a student should be able to operate what? Tools and the equipments of what? It means that a student should have a knowledge and the skills to operate tools and equipments of electronics and telecommunication to measure what? Electronic circuit parameters, right? For what? For justifying what? System performance. Getting? System justifying system what? Performance. And I've explained to you about what the means of justifying. It's just like in mathematics, you've been told that show that the lefty or the equation of the left hand side is equal to the equations of the right hand side. It means the two equations might be equal or might not be equal. So if you are justifying the system performance, the system might be working or might not be working. So you have to use the tools, electronics tools and the equipments to justify the system performance. Then the first specific, the first sub-enabling outcome, okay? Read it loudly. So, tell me the first sub-enabling outcome. I didn't hear. Employ knowledge of full skills of 40 telecommunication, or electronics. Electronics, and to do what? To maintain what? A electronic system. And if you do remember, our colleague Emmanuel Elias has asked the question that he did not understand. What does it mean about this one? But I explained to you that even if you are designing a simple circuit of 5 electronics components, you may design, you may implement, you may build it, and then you test it, it's not working. So you should have some skills of troubleshooting and fixing the problem. Okay? Class, are we together? Then, the fifth sub-enabling outcome is what? Employ what? Employ knowledge of what? Speak it loudly. Read the fifth sub-enabling outcome. So to connect what? To connect different what? Different telecommunication or communication system what? System parts. Those are the 5 sub-enabling outcomes. Then afterward, I told you the prerequisite of this module. So the prerequisite is called the telecommunication what? Practice. But the module course for that module, it's for diploma. And most of you didn't go through ordinary diploma in electronics and telecommunication. Those are the challenges in our present curriculum. Then I mentioned to you about the learning context, the learning methodology, then the reference books, then the method of assessment. And actually I told you that how are we going to break down the continuous assessment and that the point where we ended. So we had the actual video of almost 56 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, but it's more than 55 minutes. It's less than 1 hour, but it's more than 55 minutes, which you will have it today, and you can access it. So in case that you've missed it, what we discussed last week, you should not bother about that. You will have it in your hand, and you may cover it whether in Gongolamboto, whether in Bagala, or in Chanika, wherever you are. Okay? Okay. So today we are going into we are going in detail concerning about these 5 sub-enabling outcomes. And those 5 sub-enabling outcomes, that's what called related tasks. What should we cover in the first sub-enabling outcome? What should we cover in the second sub-enabling outcome? So it means that today I'm going to give you more detail about specializations in that particular sub-enabling outcome. Are you ready for that, students? Okay. So according to Dar es Salaam Institute curriculum, the curriculums actually it has 5 columns, 6 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 columns. The first one is serial number, and the second one is sub-enabling outcomes. The third column is related tasks. The first column is assessment criteria. The fifth column is assessment methods. And the last column is assessment instruments. So we don't have enough times to cover about other 3 columns because mainly it is just related with the teacher who is teaching you. But the important part of the important information, which actually we are responsible to give you the details, is about related tasks. Because related tasks give details about the particular sub-enabling outcome. Are we together? So I will not repeat to mention the sub-enabling outcome. I will just say that related task is for some now related tasks. Related tasks are for the first sub-enabling. For the first sub-enabling outcome. So we say that according to DIT's curriculum, Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology curriculum, there are There are 4 related tasks of first sub-enabling outcome. Outcome. So we name these related tasks in terms of 40, in terms of letters. Well, hello, come and sit here. Wewe, come and sit there. Wewe, njoo. Sit here. So the first thing, related task. So let us read first. Let us refer the first sub-enabling outcome. 1, 2, 3. Let us read employee. Read it loudly, students, please. Listen for myself that I'm reading to you loudly. Employ electronic knowledge and skills to construct analog and digital circuits. And I'm alone. So let us go. 1, 2, 3. If you assess between me and you, who is the winner? You, eh? Okay. So in that sub-enabling outcomes, to employ knowledge and the skills of electronics and telecommunication to construct analog and digital circuits, the following are the related tasks that a student has to achieve in order to achieve that sub-enabling outcome. The first one, a student should be able to construct all of the following analog circuits. Constructing, number 1, it means that a student should be able to construct, number 1, an amplifier by using bipolar junction transistor or op-amp. A student also should be able to construct, this is about analog, construct simply analog circuits. Construct the following analog circuits, all of them or some of them. A student should be able to construct a circuit, analog circuit that we call the integrator. A student should be able to construct an analog circuit that called the differentiator. A student should be able to construct an analog circuit that we call the electronics filters. A student should be able to construct analog circuits by use of analog circuits that we call them oscillators. So a student should be able to construct all of these 5 analog circuits or some of them. Because remember, the sub-enabling outcomes mention that employ knowledge and skills to construct analog circuits. So we have a number of analog circuits. We have different analog circuits. So for the communication part, as electronics communication, if a student manage to construct those 5 analog circuits, then at least you have acquired a knowledge. Are we together? Are we together, students? Then this is amplifiers, integrators, or differentiators, or filters, or oscillators. So class, let us say amplifiers. Say amplifiers. So we are using amplifiers in electronics communication, and we have different types of electronics communication amplifiers. Then the second circuit is called integrators. Say integrators. Say integrators. Can we construct integrators by using bipolar junction transistor? The answer is either yes or no. Angelina, can we construct integrators by using bipolar junction transistor? Angelina said no. Samuel? No idea. Huh? Huh? No idea or no idea? Precious? No idea. Huh? We cannot construct integrate by using bipolar junction transistor. Why? You don't know the reason. Shadrach? No idea. Okay. Simply, we cannot construct integrators by using amplifiers, by using bipolar junction transistors. I told you, bipolar junction transistors in electronics we just use to construct amplifier, switch, and oscillator. That's all. Okay? So when you see about integrators, you have to think about operation amplifiers. We use operation amplifiers to construct integrators. We use operation amplifiers to construct differentiators, because those are the applications of op-amp that you have learned them in advanced electronic science. But possibly you have forgotten. You don't remember whether you learned them in bipolar junction transistor or you learned them in op-amp. But I just want to remind you that you may see that when you say that construct amplifiers by using BJT or op-amp. But in case of integrators, I did not say that BJT or op-amp. It's just known. We can construct it by using op-amp. But remember that op-amp consists of bipolar junction transistors. Are we together? So it depends to the nature of the question you've been asked. You may say that no, but then the question comes, how can we make an operation amplifier? Oh, we are using bipolar junction transistor. So then, why are you saying that we cannot construct it by using? Simply, the meaning of the question, we cannot use the discrete bipolar junction transistor to make your integrators and differentiators. Are we together? So class, say integrators. Say integrators. I know that throughout your life you have met with integration. Is this it? You enjoyed it, you liked it. So, for instance, myself, when I heard about integrators, I say, okay, when I go to study electronics, bachelor in electronics and telecommunication engineering, I will construct the integrator to see the application of integration. So if somebody who is doing HGL, HKL challenge you, where are you applying this stuff? You tell him or her by constructing what? Integrators. But you should be persistent, because knowing that we can construct integrators is one story and in constructing it is another story. Then class, let us say that differentiators. Say differentiators. Say filters. So when we mention filters, we have two types of filters, two categories of filters in electronics. We have power filters, and also we have electronics communication filters. So when you talk about filters, we don't mean about filter unit in linear power supply. No. We mean about electronics communication filters, such as low passive filter, high passive filter, band passive filter. So we have a number of analog electronics communication filters. And also we have a number of digital electronics communication filters. Where do we find filters in communication system? That is a good question. We always find filters in communication system in the receiver unit. To filter what? To filter noise which has been embedded in information signal during the transmission through the guided media or unguided media. Are we together? Where are we using integrators and differentiators in communication system? Ask your neighbor. Where are we using integrators and differentiators? Are we using in transmitter unit, in media unit, or in receiver unit? Because you are a telecom student. Ask your neighbor. Why are you wandering around? Because your neighbor say, oh, wow. So this module will teach me about integrator and differentiator, but he or she is not bothering about where are we going to use it. So why are you not discussing? Don't assume that your neighbor does not know anything. I realize some students, they used to assume about their neighbors. That this is new information for my neighbor. So just let me not bothering him or her. So when you talk about amplifiers, we don't mean about all amplifiers. We have electronics amplifiers which are not used in communication. We have electronics amplifiers we are using in communication. So all of these analog circuits are used in what? Communication system. Class, are we together? Yes. Are we together? Amplifiers are used in transmitter unit and also are used in receiver unit. We have different types of amplifiers in electronics. Okay, so a student has to construct all of these 5 analog circuits, or at least one of them, and test and measure the parameter. Do you hear, Johanna? What is your task ahead? Okay. Students, is it clear? Eh? Yeah, so it means that construct amplifiers, integrators, differentiator, filters, and oscillator circuits by using either bipolar junction transistor and op-amp. That's all about the first related task. And that's all about analog, constructing analog circuit. So we are no more, now it means once we know about that, it's not more general. It's specific. Right? And you know that what you have to do. And you know that what you have to do. B. So the second related task in this first sub-enabling outcome, a student also has to be able to construct the following digital circuits. So the first digital circuit that a student has to be able to construct is called the encoder. Students say encoder. Say encoders. Again, say encoders. Say encoders. And then a student should be able to construct decoders. Say decoders. Again, say it loudly even if you are hungry. Say decoders. Eh? Are you sure? Okay, students should be able to construct digital circuits that we call multiplexer. Say multiplexers. Say multiplexers. Number 4, a student should be able to construct a digital circuit that we call half adders. Say half adders. Say half adders. Then a student should be able to construct full adders. Say full adders. Say full adders. Then a student should be able to construct a digital circuit that we call counters. Are you sure? You want to construct counters? Digital counters. Say counters. What do they do counting? They count people like you. They can count you. They can count the things. You used to see them in digital supermarkets. You just go and you pick the items. You go to the reception point. Then you just put your stuff. They've been counted and calculated, and then you'll be given the price. Okay? Okay. So class, let us say encoders. Say encoders. Say decoders. Say multiplexers. Say half adders. Say full adders. Say counters. Yeah. So all of these 60 digital electronic circuits are used in communication system. So each of them has a particular function. So a student should be able to construct at least one of them. So all of them. If I could be you, I could say that and deny. Within these 3 months, until July, I should be able even to construct it. If I won't be able to, maybe to build them, even in simulation. Because simulation is just you need computer and simulation software and fresh knowledge, that's all. If I could be you. But because I'm not you, it's a matter of yourself. You may decide. Right? For me, I might teach you either one of them or 2 of them. Then the remaining part, it's your responsibility. Are we together? Encoders we are using in transmitter part to encode the information. Just to do something we call it in telecommunication, to do the encryption. And the encoder simply just representing an envelope in normal later communications or later and poster communication. So encoder just representing what? An envelope. It encodes the information. It gives the security of your information when you are transmitting either through the guided medium or unguided medium. Right? Decoder is used in the receiver unit. Why it is used in receiver unit? To decode the information which is being coded by the encoder. So simply, decoder representing just a receiver of the data, which actually is going to take the data from the envelope. So you cannot actually take the data from the envelope if you are not addressed by the sender. Are we together? These are the present technology of the present teenagers. You didn't communicate much by using letters. But if you have communicated much, this is stuff to understand them how they do work. It's very simple. Okay? Yeah. So we taught you how to write a letter, application letter. We taught you how to write a friendly letter. Do you remember? And during the particular time, you have used it to communicate somewhere. I think you remember. Friendly letter. Say friendly letter. Say friendly letter. Or say friendly memo. So if you say friendly memo, it's very simple for you to remember to communicate whenever you have a message that you cannot communicate verbally. That is common for the teenagers. Okay. So, it means that you cannot read the letter which you are not addressed to. So remember that always in telecommunication, encoder has to speak the same language with decoder. The decoder cannot decode information from any other encoder. It should be encode the information from the encoder of the same family. We have something we call it family. Are we together? For instance, if I just wrote a letter to Johanna, so myself, I will be encoding that letter in such a way that if Zuena received that letter, she might read that, no, this letter is not addressed to me. It has been addressed to Johanna. So once Johanna sees the address, and then she can say, okay, this is my letter. Let me open the envelope and read, get in, and read what the message within the letter. So Johanna by that time is going to decode the information which I have encoded. But when we talk about encoders and decoders, these are the digital circuits. We don't have analog encoders. We don't have analog decoders. Are we together? Are we together? Then we have multiplexer. Say multiplexers. Say multiplexers. Multiplexers also, these are the communication circuits, digital circuits. We are using them in transmitter part to multiplex, to combine. Multiplexer is actual combining different inputs and give a single combined output. Are we together? Then why do we decode? For instance, this is used in cellular communication. I just make a call. I want to call my friend in Mwanza. And then Samandito also want to call his friend in Geita. Then we have maybe somebody want to call his friend in Kagera. So we are using the same network possibilities, Vodacom. So we have 3 calls. So our calls will be encoded, will be multiplexed. It means that will be combined and transmitted through the Vodacom network from Dar es Salaam to Mwanza. So the multiplexer, it's a one that we receive these 3 different calls from different callers. Okay? So once it reaches to Mwanza, one of the calls should be, its destination is Mwanza, the other one is Geita, and the other one is what? Is Bukoba. So there, it will be the receiving end. At the receiving ends, we are going to have the multiplexer. Didn't I mention the multiplexer? Okay, so it's not mentioned, but you cannot have multiplexer without the multiplexer. So this number 7, right? The multiplexers. Say the multiplexers. So once the information reach at the Vodacom cellular center in Mwanza, then the multiplexer is going to receive 3 combined calls from Dar es Salaam and then provide 3 different calls. So the multiplexer actually receives a single combined input and gives different combined or channels. We call that give different channel, right? So whenever we have multiplexer, so we use multiplexer in transmitter, we use the multiplexer in what? Receiver. Okay? Class, are we together? Then we have half adders. Say half adders. Say half adders. And then we have full adders. Say full adders. So these are the adders, are the names that actually they are using to add information. Okay? So you say that they are using to add information. For instance, in case of the computer, a computer has how many main parts? 4? One part is what? Input and output peripheral. The other one? Central processing unit. The other one? Memory. The other one is what? So, okay, in memory we have 2 types of memory. We have combinational memory, or we have combinational logic circuits, and the sequential logic circuits. So in combinational logic circuits, we say that because remember that in communications also we need some memory elements. Okay? Yes, we call it, I think that you remember in computer, there's one abbreviation called the ALU. What's the long terms of ALU? Arithmetic, logic, unit. So this one, it's the one that which is going to do arithmetic and logic unit. Okay? Okay? Then counters. Say counters. So we have counters. We have different types of digital counters. So counters also we need, because for instance, if Vodacom give us statistics that, okay, today we had maybe 1 billion calls. So it means that there is a part in communication system which has to count about the number of calls which have been made within the single day. Okay? And this one sometimes helps the telecommunication companies to know about the density or the demand and the service they are supplying to the users of their network. Are we together? Any questions? So I'm just trying to give you a brief. So it means that in digital circuits, you have to, whenever you sleep, you wake up, you think about encoders. You sleep, you wake up, you think about half adder. You sleep and wake up, you think about counters. That's all. Then from there, you'll understand the module called electronics communication label. So this is just constructing. And in constructing, I told you, the primary thing, identify the problem. You are constructing for what purpose? Okay, is there any question of that part? Do you have any question? They are function. They are adding signals. Just keep waiting. We'll discuss them. Then you'll understand how are they adding and how are they working. Another question? Dixon? Dixon Diegula. Man from Kagera. Dixon. Do you have a question? No. Dixon, the previous year? Do you understand what we discussed? Where is your friend? He's asking me, who is that? While the whole class and myself, also your teacher, knows. C, the third. Oh, sorry, this is C. Sorry, just change here. This is C. B, this is B. Once you construct the analog circuit, so I'm sorry. Once you construct the analog circuits, those 5 analog circuits, or one of them, a student should be able to test the performance. Should be able to test the performance of constructed circuit. Of constructed analog circuits. So this is the second related task. Constructing is one of the responsibility. The second, once you construct, you have to be able to test yourself whether you are constructed the analog circuits work or it's not working. How are you going to test it? Ask your neighbor, how are you going to test the performance of our constructed analog circuit? Ask your neighbor. What did your neighbor say? Jessica, you have a neighbor there. Not that one. Angelina is your neighbor. What do your neighbor say? So some of the students, they are sitting alone in order to make sure they don't have neighbors. So this is the second related task. This is the third related task. So from there, it's very simple for you to predict the last related task in this first sub-enabling outcome. So the last one is test the performance. Test the performance of 40. Once you construct this digital circuit, you have to be able to test the performance of 40 of constructed what? Constructed what? A digital circuit. So constructing is another responsibility. Then performance is another of the responsibility. So this is the first related task. This is the second. This is the third. This is the fourth. Are we together? Are we together? Okay, fine. So this was number 1. Then let us go to number 2. Do you have any question? So you ask your neighbor. What did your neighbor say? How are you going to test the performance of your constructed analog circuits? What did he or she say? For instance, your neighbor Bundala? You don't have a neighbor. This is your neighbor. This one. Who has already taken Limi's exercise book. Just give her. What did your neighbor say?
She said by using electronic measuring instruments.
So one of the neighbors said that you can test the performance of the constructed analog circuits by using electronics measuring tools and the equipments. So if you don't know how to use oscilloscope, then this is another story. If you don't know how to use an ammeter, that will be another problem, because you won't be able to test the performance of 40 of the circuit which you have constructed. So simply, it means that the second related task and the first related task, actually, they have a close relationship with the second sub-enabling outcome and third sub-enabling outcomes. So you have to use the electronics measuring tools and equipments to test the performance of your constructed analog and the digital circuits. That's all. Number 2, if you have any question about related tasks for the first sub-enabling outcome, you may ask. Related tasks for the So remember that according to this related task, you might also notice that this module is not responsible to teach you about what is multiplexer. This module, it has to find you have a prior knowledge about multiplexer, and then the module actual has to teach you how to construct it. I don't know if you understand. Do you understand? Do you understand? Yeah. Because say that employee electronics and telecommunication knowledge. So this one means constructing the following analog circuits. So the assumption which has been made up to this time, you know a lot about filters. You know a lot about decoders. But in Bongo land, I know that most of those electronic circuits or communication circuits is the first time to hear them. Just to hear them, not just to know them, to hear them. So related tasks for the second sub-enabling outcome. So if you're enjoying related tasks of electronics communication laboratory, now I ask all the students to read for me the second sub-enabling outcome. Read it loudly, happily, just like how you supported the Younger Sports Club when beat Simba 2-1. Nobody who has insisted you to support it. You were supporting yourself and possibly you went to watch the match. So this is Simba and the Yanga. So possibly, electronic communication laboratory is what Simba and you are Yanga. You are going to defeat it. Or electronic communication laboratory is going to defeat you. Ask your neighbor. Are you going to defeat? Are you going to beat electronic communication laboratory or you are going to be beaten? Ask your neighbor. I gave you a task, student, and then you are you are still roaming around. Stop writing. Let us read the second sub-enabling outcome in order to learn its related task. 1, 2, 3. Let us go. That the voice of Simba or Yanga? Simba, So Simba, the one who are reading it, poor. 1, 2, 3. Let us read the second sub-enabling outcome. Some of you, they don't care about that. Okay, so there are 3 related tasks for the second sub-enabling outcome that read, use electronics tools and equipment to measure electrical parameters of analog and digital circuits. That's the voice of one person in this class. And you heard the voice of who? More than 50 people in this class who are not actually happy at all. I don't know, maybe because it's Wednesday and it did not rain, because others they are not happy if it did not rain. Because if it did not rain, they have to come to college. If it rains, they don't come. So the first C, it is a student should be able to select test tools. A student should be able to select test tools and the equipment. A student should be able to select tools and equipment. That is the first C-related task for the second sub-enabling outcome. So you should be able to select test tools and and equipment. How are you going to select the guiding information that will help you to select is just the type of electrical parameter that you want to measure. If you want to measure capacitance, then you have to select a capacitance meter. If you want to measure frequency, you have to select the frequency meter. If you want to see the waveform, then you have to select your oscilloscope. Okay? So you should know what are you going to measure. So a student should be able to select test tools and equipment. Then the second related task for this second sub-enabling outcome is a student should be able to pinpoint test points. And this is very important phenomena in electronics and telecommunication engineering. Class A, test points. Again, say test points. So test points is actual very important phenomena in electronics and telecommunication. There are some students who came late in this class, and then they are asking, who told you to give them the attendance? Huh? Follow the instruction, please. If a student is late, it's just late. So a student did not even understand what am I teaching, but he or she has already signed. That is bongo. That is what? Signing is very important more than the concept which have been what? Told. In bongo. So a student might come, and if you ask him or you ask him or her, what did you learn? Then say, okay, I signed the attendance. I was present in the class. Okay, class say test sequence. Say test sequence. Yeah, so for instance, you have your bipolar junction transistor, which you are using it to construct your amplifier. Your amplifier. Then we have, this is base, this is collector, this is what? Emitter. So in this bipolar junction transistor, we have 3 important testing points. So when you say when you say testing points, we did not specify the electrical parameter that you are going to measure. We are just choosing the point where we are going to do our measurements. Then after you chose the testing points, because that's why the first specific objective, the first related task, you have to select the testing tools. The second related task, you have to know the testing points. Where are you going to connect your measuring tools and the equipment? Are we together? Are we together? So testing points, it's a point within your circuit. So for instance, if you say that we wanted to measure two parameters of this bipolar junction transistor, then, so I will say that this is my first testing point, this is my second testing point, this is my third testing point. So those are the testing points. Within this testing point, you may measure one or more than one electric parameter. Within this testing point, you may measure one electric parameter or more than one electric parameter. Within this testing point, you may measure one or more than one electric parameter. So the choice of testing points measure your level of understanding and mastering telecommunication engineering. Because I told you that if you cannot express the performance of your system in terms of numbers, in terms of formula, in terms of tables, in terms of diagrams, in terms of graph, actually you are presenting the politics in engineering. So you cannot have numbers in circuits if we don't have the point where that we are going to get those numbers. You cannot do measurements within your telecommunication circuit anywhere or at any point. You can't do it. Okay? So it means that we used to test or we used to measure to assess your ability of choosing the test the testing point. Are we together? Class, are we together? Okay, I don't know whether you are happy to receive this information, you are unhappy. But for me, I'm very happy to teach them. The third related task for this one, a student should be able to measure what? Should be able to measure currents, should be able to measure voltage. The student should be able to measure resistance or resistances. The student should be able to measure capacitance. Capacitance in electronic circuit. Electronics circuits. In electronic circuit. So this is the third related task. A student should be able to measure currents, voltage, resistance, capacitance, and what in electronic circuits. So actually, the third specific object, the third related task, it tells us after choosing the testing points, or after you have chosen the testing point, then what do we expect you to measure? At least one among the 4 parameters. So this is what we call them electrical parameters. Electrical parameters. So for instance, for the bipolar junction transistor, you can measure the currents or the current within the 3 testing point. You can measure the voltage within the 3 testing point. And then I want to, before I present to you about the related task for the third specific objective, in semester 1, I've been teaching you one more that called electronics product fabrication. And then one of the product that we decided to design at the beginning, we decided to design audio amplifier. And then because of the time, we just designed the one part in that audio amplifier, which is about what we designed the linear power supply. Then I told you that the story about our audio amplifier will continue in second, and you saw the related task in the first sub-enabling outcome that the student should be able to construct amplifiers. So I'm trying to link the information that possibly for you have forgotten. Right? So I gave you a promise in W15-1, if you do remember. It was night. I gave you a promise because you have been confused. You didn't know that we are still designing audio amplifier or linear power supply. So I told you that the story will continue in the second semester. So I remember about what I gave you a promise. And I thank God. Always I'm trying my level best to fulfill what I promised the people. I'm trying my level. Sometimes I fail, but I'm trying my level best. So ask your neighbor, do you try your level best to fulfill the promises you gave your friends? Ask his when, as when is not here biologically. Do you have any questions? So the first one, select what? Test the tools and equipment. The second one, test the points. The third one, measure electric parameters that you are going to measure in those test points. Right? Are we together? Do you have any question about these 3 related tasks? Benjamin, do you have any question? Glory? Mvunye? Joseph Jacob? Joseph Pasco? Mikidadi? Joan? Winfrida? I still remember your name. Neema? Limi? Robert? Alquino? Eliakimu? Matthias? Eliakimu? Present? Okay. So, related task is no question. Okay, thank you. For the third sub-enabling outcome. Then we say, according to URASA's curriculum, because URASA has a curriculum, according to DIT's curriculum, there are 4 related tasks of the third sub-enabling outcome. I see some students are still writing on paper. But I want to tell you that the information I'm giving you are very worthy, more than the piece of paper that you are using to write. At this time, you might not honor them, but later on, you'll honor them. So make sure that you have exercise book to write down. This is your cause. This is what you gave a promise to your parents that I liked it or I love this course. Let me study it for 4 years. So whether you came by chance, now you don't have an option. You're a messenger of electronics and telecommunication, what? Engineer. Okay, so we have 4. So 1, 2, 3. Let us read the third sub-enabling outcome. 1, 2, 3, and let us read. Or should I start? Should I guide you? The third sub-enabling outcome is read like operate electronics tools and equipment to measure electronic circuits parameters for justifying system parameter. No, system performance. So that is my voice. 1, 2, 3. Let us hear your voice. I think that you know your neighbor was quiet. And let us continue because your neighbor does not have time to read the said sub-enabling outcome. Okay, so this deals with operation. Let us see related task that the student has to cover. The first related task, a student should be able to identify measuring instrument. Measuring instrument. So 1, 2, 3, let us read. Identify measuring instrument. 1, 2, 3, let us go. When you read, you are right in your mind. Later on, when you see that or you realize that the stuff are difficult, but you refer that, oh, this is my responsibility. It's not the matter of the teacher, it's not the matter of the subject. It's a matter, this is my responsibility as electronics and telecommunication engineer. So what the difference between identify measuring instrument and select test tools and equipment? So because I know that you don't like to bother your mind, ask your neighbor. I know that you like to disturb your neighbor. Not ask yourself, So ask your neighbor, why are you? So what the difference? This is your neighbor. This is your neighbor. Talk to her. This is your neighbor. Talk to her. What the difference between identify measuring instrument and select test tools and equipment? So from there, you have to refer your level of understanding of English. And you have to remember your English teacher. So I think you are still asking your neighbor, because you missed it, to talk with your neighbor. Then the second related task for the said sub-enabling outcome, a student should be able to select a measuring instrument. The first one to identify, the second one to select. What the difference between equipment, tool, and instrument? We have a word called the tool. We have a word called the equipment. We have a word called the instrument. What are their difference? Again, you need to ask your neighbor, as usual. Because you ask your neighbor and then you don't bother about the answer because you know it. Ask your neighbor. And what the difference between select the measuring instruments and select the test tools and equipment. This is I'm quoting. It's not my words. These are I'm quoting from the curriculum. Right? This is a quotation. Your friend is busy writing, eh? Especially your friend who is using the left hand, right? Is busy on writing. Okay. So your friend, your neighbor does not listen about your question. Then the students has to be able to identify test sequence on electronic circuit. So the said related task, a student should be able to identify test sequence on electronic circuit. So what the difference between identifying the test sequence on electronic circuits and pinpointing the test sequence? We have some of our colleagues who have gone for English medium since nursery, primary, and even secondary, or level up to A level. Help us. Help us who have gone to, we call it Swahili medium. Swahili nursery school, Swahili primary school, Swahili O-level school, Swahili A-level schools, and Swahili ODs, colleges. So help us, please, because you always used to tell your neighbors, I'm very good in English. So help us. What is the difference between pinpointing test sequence and identify test sequence? So I think next time you will be careful on choosing your neighbor. If you are from Swahili medium, I advise you it's better to choose your neighbor who from what? English medium. So when it comes to the question of English medium, you just ask him or her. And he or she should not give you politics. Just answer it. Because for we have just learned A, B, C, D, E. That's how we learn. But for those who have gone for English medium, they learn the ABC in terms of sound. F standing for frog. D standing for dog. D standing for what? Okay, but all of us who are in this class, we have to be familiar with English medium, because possibly our children will go through English medium and we will fail to help them. Because they reject us to teach them because we are teaching them differently. You are teaching them A, say A, B, C. They don't know. A is standing for what? D is standing for dog. E is standing for what? Egg. But not the egg. You don't pronounce egg. There's a way to pronounce it. Be careful when you speak English with English medium. Kids. In Bongo we say that watakuaibisha. Wata? You tell them, okay, it's time for sleeping. But unfortunately you didn't understand what the kid communicated to you. The first related task, a student should be able to measure electronic. We are not opposing English medium. We are just asking them to help us in case we have some synonyms in English. Because I know for Swahili medium, pinpoint and identify have the same meaning. To simplify life. The same meaning, just different words. In Swahili medium. Because what the message just there is to pinpoint, to choose. and this is just to identify. So the same meaning. It's just a matter of, because English is rich, it has a lot of words, that's why they've used what? Two words. But for English medium, those are the two different vocabulary. Am I right? Yeah. But maybe the English medium were not prepared about that, the difference between those terminology. So let's give them a task to go and find the difference. And next time they'll tell us. Okay? Because we are confused. After we say that the related task in second sub-enabling outcomes are similar to the related task in the what? Third sub-enabling, we who are Swahili what? Media. Because we just check the message, the main message. Testing points, that's all. The other one, measure. So identify whatever. Class, is it clear? But there's a close relationship since when I've been teaching about the second sub-enabling outcomes and the third one, I told you there's a close relationship between those sub-enabling outcomes, right? But is this 3 related task of second sub-enabling outcome and 4 related task of the third sub-enabling outcomes? You see also the close relationship between them. All right? Class, are we together? Eh? Class, are we together? Okay. Then, ladies and gentlemen, let me present to you or present to you about related task of the fourth sub-enabling outcome. So you have to make sure that you grasp a number of the concepts from different sources in order to make sure that you meet or you perform these related tasks. So you know what should be written there. So just go there first. So just what you need to know about the number of related tasks. So we have 4. So here in between, we just write 4. It means you have to quote according to the IT curriculum. There are 4 related tasks for 4 sub-enabling outcomes. I want to check if you are active or not active. Because I know for the students who are not active, they just use this and then say that I understand. So we have 4 sub-enabling outcomes. So let me read the 4 sub-enabling outcomes. Are you ready to listen? Ask your neighbor, are you ready to listen? Ask your neighbor, are you ready to listen? Okay. Employ knowledge and the what? Skills of what? Electronics and telecommunication to maintain electronics communication systems. Higher. Now it's your time. 1, 2, 3, read it. To maintain electronic system. So you have a plan to maintain electronic system. Can you maintain yourself? Because you like to say that let me maintain electronic system while you fail to maintain yourself. So here are related tasks for this 4 sub-enabling outcome. A student should be able to explain basic steps in performing maintenance of electronic system. Of electronics system. That's the first related task for the fourth sub-enabling outcome. A student should be able to explain basic steps in performing maintenance of electronic system. So there are basic steps, and also there are intermediate steps, and also there are advanced steps of performing maintenance of electronics communication system or device. So the module asks me to teach you or ask you to find the basic UT steps. So you should not be satisfied with basic steps. You have to find those intermediate steps and even advanced UT steps of UT performing maintenance of electronics system. Class 1, 2, 3, let us energize ourselves because our energy has been decaying time as time. So 1, 2, 3, let us read that first related task. Okay. We will relate you. We will hear you explaining those steps. Then the second related task, a student, engineering student, or electronics and telecommunication engineering student should be able to identify type of what? Of maintenance. Types of maintenance and faults. Types of maintenance and the faults. A student should be able to identify. We hear again the verb called identify, to identify type of maintenance and faults. So to achieve that first enabling outcome, should know the basic steps and also should know to identify the type. So there are types of what? Of maintenance, which actually in electronics and telecommunication we have two types of maintenance. And then, but also you have to know the type of what? Of the fault. 1, 2, 3, let us read. Identify type of maintenance and faults. Identify type of maintenance and faults. Huh? Again? Identify type of maintenance and faults. I just hate some students who are just saying faults. They're just waiting you to reach faults. So they amplify the word fault. Then the first related task, once you identify the type of fault, then a student should be able to clear fault. So that's the third related task. You should be able to clear the fault which you have identified. What the means of clear the fault? Usual, you don't want to bother yourself. Ask your neighbor, what does it mean about clear the fault? It means you write the fault and then you clear, you clean, or you rub it, or... Joshua, who is your neighbor? What's going on? He can't talk? What does it mean? Oro. What does it mean clear fault? The related task and the sentence is very short. It has just a verb and a noun. Clear fault. Full stop. What does it mean? What do you understand? You are just writing the fault and then you clear it, or... Hey. So, Oro is still thinking about the meaning. Limi, what does it mean? Also, Limi is saying this, the same story as Oro as me. Abdullah, what do you understand that clear the fault? But first of all, Abdullah, did you greet your neighbor on your left-hand side? Yes, because your neighbor is not happy at all. Yes. So greet him again. So Abdullah will be wasting time and time because he has no idea about clear default. Here? To give solution. So one of the students saying that clear default is to give solution. Angelina, what do you understand about clear default? No idea. Dativa? Seni? Shadrach was. Shadrach was up. Now. What does it mean? Let me redeem the time. Joshua, I think your neighbor told you. What the meaning of clear fault? Toba has told you something. We are speaking English. Okay. Clear default, simply, it means that fixing the problem. Okay? Fixing what? It means that solving the problem which you have identified. The first letter the task, once you fix the solution, you as engineer, you should go to the first step or first related task, which is testing system performance. Class A, clear fault. Once you have cleared the fault, the next step is not to take the communication system and hand it to the owner. The next step, you as the technician or as engineer, you have to test the system performance. Is it working properly? You should not give the client to go and test, because actually the client will conclude that this is the wonderful and amazing engineer, electronics and telecommunication engineer, who told me that my system is working properly, why it's not working. So actual, the business, it means that you will never have any more clients, and also he or she recommend you badly to his friends, to his or her friends. So once you clear the fault, the next step that you usually do, you test the system performance. If it's performed as expected, or the aim of testing to check if there's another fault which you did not identify. Are we together? Class, are we together? Yes, so this is all about theory. Remember that these related tasks, they don't relate only with just maintenance. I told you that whenever, even if yourself as an engineer, your main task is to design. So even in designing, we used to do maintenance. We used to do troubleshooting of the system. We used to do, just identify the fault, to identify maybe the cause of error, to identify why the system is not working. We have to fix it. We have to test it. We have to redesign. So it's a process. Okay? Are we together? Yeah, so don't say that, oh, you know, we are engineers, we are not technicians, so maintenance is not our responsibility. Where? Who told you that? Class, let us read the first one, in order to remind ourselves. So once I will assign you that task, then it will be easy for you to remember that, oh, the curriculum asks us to be given this task. Class, read testing system performance. So for instance, once a medical doctor gives you treatment, the next step that you have to test about your body's performance system. Right? If you can walk, you do the practice that to walk. If you can't, you say, I'm still sick. This isn't. Then number 5. Number 5, we say that related tasks of 40. Class related tasks of 40 or 50. Sabu enabling outcome. Ask your neighbor, what the means of sub-enabling outcome? I might ask you that question in a test. Define sub-enabling outcome. And then for you, you might think that if teacher could tell me to mention, I could have mentioned. Then I ask you a question in another angle. Define sub-enabling outcome. What will you say? Sub-enabling outcome is what? So in order to make sure that you protect yourself, you maintain yourself, ask your neighbor. Use this term to ask your neighbor. What the means of sub-enabling outcome? In English, as the English personnel, as a pure linguistic. So that's what I told you. In all my classes, make sure that you choose a proper neighbor. So just like you are selecting the tools, you select the property. So if you see that my neighbor has likely challenges as I do, so you just go to another, and then you say, okay, let me go and take my exercise book there. It's not for the bad intention, it's for the good intention. So let us task you for the fifth sub-enabling outcome. So we just see, according to the IT curriculum, there are 3 related tasks of the fifth sub-enabling outcome. The first related task for this fifth sub-enabling outcome, first of all, before we learn about the related task, let us remind ourselves the fifth sub-enabling outcome. 1, 2, 3, let us read together and see between I and you, who can read it loudly. 1, 2, 3, let us go. Employ knowledge and skills of electronic and telecommunication to connect electronics communication system parts. Who is the winner? You are selfish. Okay. So it means that these sub-enabling outcomes is connecting different communication parts. And I told you that in any telecommunication system, we can break a telecommunication system, any telecommunication system, into 3 main parts. Okay, he gave me a signal that he well understood. These are the 3 main parts of any telecommunication system. Whether it is short distance, whether it is medium distance, whether it is long distance, maybe from Tanzania to USA, you can break down any telecommunication system into those 3 main parts. The first one is what? The first one is what? The first one is what? Yeah, man. It's on the South East Etukwel. The first one is what? At least. Transmitter unit. The second one is what? Media or medium? Medium is plural or media is plural? So media is plural. Medium is plural. Now singular. So medium. Then the third part is what? So if you cannot connect, Joseph Pasco, you see, you chose the wrong what? Tool. Who is the Younger Sport Club? Let us continue. Because Joseph was sending the signal, was communicating. So he was a transmitter and somebody was what? Receiver. And the media was what? Air. So the fifth sub-enabling outcome, actual, you have to learn how to link these 3 main parts of telecommunication system. If you fail to link or to connect the transmitter with media, so what are you doing now? Students, attention please, and look on the blackboard. If you fail to connect the transmitter unit with media unit, simply you don't have a communication system. Right? Again, if you fail to link a media and receiver unit, again, you don't have communication system. Simply like that. So when we mention about connecting different parts of communication system, in your mind, you have to think in high level, in a big picture of these three. It might be either simple communication system or even complicated one, which you call the satellite. Because when I ask you to go and look electronics and telecommunication instruments, what devices and systems, some of you chose satellite. You remember those days? You say that your device is what? Satellite. Then you traveled, after a short time you found, this is wrong choice. Wonderful. So I want to tell you that one of the complicated telecommunication system in the world of today is satellite communication. So while you are a beginner, you just came, we told you welcome to DIT, then you chose satellite device. Do you see how wonderful you are? You just forgot a simple communication within the short distance. For you say, I want it to access the satellite. Okay, all the best. Our country does not even have a satellite. And then you say that you want to access what? Satellite. Okay. So the first one, a student should be able, the first related task, a student should be able to identify. I think that tonight, if you have a dream to actually rewinding what you have heard and you have seen during the day, I think one of the ways that you might dream is identify. Ask your neighbor, are you going to dream the word identify? So identify parts to be integrated. Read 1, 2, 3, identify. So before you connect them, you have to identify which parts am I going to integrate, which parts am I going to connect. Okay? Okay? So identify parts to be what? Connected. So I told you that the simple parts, whenever you have communication system, identify which is transmitter, which is media, which is the receiver unit. So once you identify, that's one step. Tell your neighbor, that's one step. In this semester, second semester in our department, we are teaching our students a lot of modules about telecommunication engineering. In the first semester, we usually teach a lot of modules or a number of modules in electronics. That's our philosophy in our department for 4 years. First semester, electronics. Second semester, telecommunication. Why? Because telecommunication is applications of electronics engineering. But the challenge that we used to experience once we expose our students about telecommunications modules, engineering modules, in the second semester, when we meet with them in the third semester in electronics modules, we find that almost 50% have already shifted from electronics engineering. They have already figured out in telecommunication engineering because most of telecommunication engineering systems are not difficult like electronics system. For instance, if you want to establish a network, you just need a switch, you just need a router, you just need a computer. That's all. To connect them in hardware, very simple. You just need to do determinations of what? Ethernet cable. You connect them, then everything or all the work will be done in software. And we know that as Tanzania, we like softy things. You just write a command, you just give the IP, an IP address, that's all. They communicate, you say, yeah, this is telecom. So for me, I'm telecom engineer, but I'm not. But I want to tell you that in our country, we have so many telecommunication engineers, a number of them. And we always we produce a number of them every year. Okay? Are we together? Are we together, class? Yeah. Remember that it is difficult for you to say, oh, I want to design my own telecommunication switch. No. Cisco is there. Huawei are there. They are doing a number of research day after day. And they're even thinking more than what you are thinking right now or what you see. Okay, so identify part C to be what? Integrated. It's one of my advice. I ask you to be electronics and telecommunication engineer, right? Be telecom guy, be electronics guy. That is my what? Advice. But being telecom guy itself, then we tell you that I think that you have come to the wrong of the department. Because it could be better if you have gone to the University of Dar es Salaam, where they learn telecommunication engineering for 8 semesters. We will teach you 4 semesters. So once you go for the interview, you know what will happen. They will kick you. Okay. It's my advice. So then, the second related task is what? Select proper connecting media. Proper connecting media. That is the second related task for the 5th C sub-enabling outcome. Select proper connecting media. So what does this related task teach us? Simply teach us about the second part of communication system, which is what? Media. How do you select the proper connecting media? Ask your neighbor, because you are learning telecommunication practice, you are learning communication system, you are learning fundamental of digital electronics. In semester 1, you learn the fundamental of analog electronics, so you have a lot of information. Ask your neighbor, how do we select the proper connecting media? For instance, you have a transmitter and you have a receiver. How could you know that the proper connecting media is this one? The question is simple. The question is simple. In telecommunication, we just have 2 media. Guided media and the unguided media. Say guided media. Guided media. And unguided media. Guided media simply called wired media. Wired, there is a physical connection between transmitter and the receiver. That the meaning of guided or wired. Unguided, we means wireless. There is no any physical connection between transmitter and what? Receiver. So how could you know that to connect this transmitter and this receiver, I need wireless or I need guided? Because when you say I get guided, we have 4 types of guided media. How? So keep on asking your neighbor, because I know you like your neighbor. You like to ask a question, your neighbor. Okay. Keep asking your neighbor. Some of you are writing Roman C. So the answer of that question, in order to choose or to select a proper connection, okay, it is enough. I think your neighbor has told you something. And it might be wonderful. So listen now. One, there are different parameters or different factors that you have to examine and analyze before you choose the proper connecting media between transmitter and the receiver. One of the important factor is distance of what? Transmission. What the distance of transmission? Right? But the second parameter, what are the noises, expected noises along the transmission? Okay? But the third parameter, or third important factor, what the power, what the ability of the transmitter to propagate the information? Will the transmitter be able to propagate the information wirelessly or wired? Will the transmitter be able to just propagate the information in short distance, long distance, or medium distance? Okay? So it's not just a matter of taking transmitter and receiver. For instance, myself, that when transmitting this sound, I've just connected easily. Just this is transmitter. I wear the transmitter and the receiver in the video camera. Just within a 1 minute, I've connected them. Then they communicate. That's all. But when we talk about these stories, we mean that you are the one who has to make this audio transmitter and audio receiver. And the media here is wireless. Okay? Class, are we together? Are we together? Okay, so let us read. So one day when I kick you a question about that, you could not say that we have never heard it. 1, 2, 3. Connect. Select. Again. So once you have selected the proper connecting media, the next step now, you have to join. You have to join. You have to join what? Those different parts. Join communication system parts. Join communication system parts. Join communication system parts. You have identified the parts to be integrated or to be connected. You have selected the proper connecting media. Now you have a responsibility of what? Join those different communication what? Parts. Or system, communication system parts. Class, are we together? So to join, simple verb, isn't it? For Swahili medium and the English, join means what? Tell your neighbor what the meaning of join in Swahili. Because it might be a vocabulary for others. Your neighbor might go and consult and check the dictionary. English to Swahili, dictionary, join. For instance, if you access the dictionary now, you want to know what the meaning of the word identify. Because the teacher today mentioned identify. What does it mean? So did your neighbor tell you the meaning of join? Do you accept it? Okay, but your neighbor has a lot of your assignments to go and work them. So ask him, when are you going to submit? Okay, so join communication system parts. Those are the related tasks that we have to cover in this module. So once I've mentioned the sub-enabling outcomes, the related task, from today onwards, you are no longer blind in this module. Why? Because you know what to learn. You know what to do? You know what should you what? Learn. And also, because the second reason, you have the reference books that you can use them, you can check them, and find these related tasks and sub-enabling outcomes that you have to cover. Are we together? Yes. So from today onwards, you are no longer what? Blind. We as teachers who are teaching in higher education level, once we mention all of this stuff, we might come to the class to facilitate learning, and sometimes we might not come. Why? Because we have already told the students what to learn, what to cover. Are we together? So which option do you choose? Should they come to class or should they not come to class? No, you can go further because you have everything in your hand. So for myself, if just I compose a test or exam, I'll be composing a test and exam according to this related task and sub-enabling outcomes. Because this is the guidance that will be guiding me. Are we together? Are we together? So every module that you are learning at Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology has its sub-enabling outcome and the related tasks. So if the teacher forgot to give you at the beginning of the module, it's a responsibility of the students to go and ask a teacher, because these are not confidential information. Because it's the actual, we are opening the mind of our students. So in case we encounter any challenge that maybe for the teacher to not come to or maybe fail to come to class, you can learn as long as you can. Are we together? So it's a responsibility of the teacher and the students to know about sub-enabling outcomes and the related task. So a teacher might declare them, or you might go as a student and a good student to ask about the sub-enabling outcome for that module. Are we together? Are we together? We are not allowed to give you the curriculum. Curriculum is confidential. But the contents that you have to cover is not confidential. So to know is one step. To apply what you have heard, it's another story. We have Engineer Nora is coming inside the class. Okay, so after going through those sub-enabling outcomes and the related tasks, myself as the teacher, I grouped those sub-enabling outcomes and also related tasks, and I came up with 7 chapters that we have to cover for this module. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to present to you about chapters of electronics, communication, laboratory. So it means when I mention these chapters, you'll have a good time. You'll be having a good time to go or to move laboratory yourself. Why? Because you know the chapters that you have to cover. So we have 7 chapters. Chapter 1, it's the one that we have been covering, or we are still learning in workshop 1, workshop 0, workshop 1. We'll have also some contents workshop 2, and workshop 3, possibly workshop 5, will be the end of the first chapter. So chapter 1, I called it General Introduction. General Introduction of what? Of electronics, communication, laboratory. So this is the first chapter. Say general introduction of electronics communication laboratory. So since workshop 0, I was teaching you about that topic. The second topic, which we call it chapter 2, this we call it analogy, electronics. The second chapter is analogy, electronics, communication, circuits. Communication, circuits. So this topic relates to the first sub-enabling outcome. The first sub-enabling outcome, you have to employ knowledge and skills of electronics and telecommunication to construct what? Analogy circuits. Don't wonder. Come. To construct the analogy circuit. So the second chapter is analogy electronics communication circuits. That's the first chapter. Then the third chapter, this is chapter 3. So the third chapter relates to the second sub-enabling outcome. We have been told that once we manage to construct those analog electronics communication circuit, we have to measure electrical parameters found in those analogy. So it means that the third chapter is actual measurements of 40 analog electronics communication circuit. So it's very simple. I'm trying my level best to break down the concept and to clarify by using a very simple language. Even the beginners can understand. So the third chapter is called the measurement of electrical parameters. Tell your neighbor, measurements of electrical parameters. Okay. Measurement of electrical parameters in analogy electronics communication in analog electronics communication circuits. So this SEDI chapter relating with the SEDI second and SEDI, how and when something is going on, signaling is continuing between Hawa and the Zuena. And not Zuena Sunzu, Zuena Masebo. Okay, so measures, okay, so separating, let us read these chapters because once you know those chapters, you can go further. We may meet during the examination time. So you may learn the theory yourself, you may learn the simulation yourself because you know what to cover. You may also, I just give you the electronics component, the access of the lab, you do your practicals, I'm just collecting your, we call it lab reports. Then we meet in tests and the exam. That's the goodness of higher education. In higher education, we have to teach less and expect a high result. But not in Bongo. Class, let us say analog electronics communication circuits. Then the next topic is called measurements of electrical parameters in analog electronics communication circuits. You can imagine, what if I just came and tell you that these are the chapters of electronics communication laboratory. Then we get in detail. You know that what I'm doing, you know that I know what am I doing. Because I know this stuff are not simple. So why I'm trying to mention, because in Tanzania we have a lot of students who are complaining about the difficultness of of the stuff. So I'm trying to mention in order to know that it's not my concern. It's not me who decided to learn about that. It's the institution itself, right? Because I know that when I come and say, okay, today we are learning about encoder. Then we get encoder. For example, I teach you 2 hours about encoder. You know what are you going to say? This is stuff for master student. This is stuff should be taught maybe PhD, not NTA level 7. Wait. So I know what I doing. And possibly also you know what you are doing. We are trying to find the leveling. So because you are trying to find the leveling, so when I say, okay, today our workshop is about multiplexer. You will never ask me that, oh, the multiplexer is for the PhD, is for the masters. I think even yourself and your neighbors will be get shame. Because you'll be complaining with something which it's your size, it's your level to cover. Okay? Are we together? Now, yes. Yes should be few. Chapter 4. Chapter 4, it's digital. Digital what? Digital electronics communication circuits. So for me, I will teach you what I know about electronics communication laboratory. I will do my part. And my witness will be God. And also my employee. Or my boss. That I did my part. Yourself, you have to do your part. Your witness should be who? Your witness should be God. And the second witness should be your parents. Who have given you tuition fee. Who have given you fare to come back to DIT. To enjoy this stuff. Ask your neighbor, do you enjoy this stuff? Ask your neighbor, do you enjoy this stuff? Your neighbor, what did he say? What she say? He or she said that if I could know that these are the stuff that I have to cover, I couldn't come. To what? To electronics and the telecommunication. But the stuff are not difficult. If you are serious, these stuff are very, 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 very interesting. They are neither difficult nor simple. So I don't want to tell you that they are simple or they are difficult. I will never tell you. It's a matter of how you take them. If you take them lightly, then they will beat you. Just like Yanga beat what? Simba Sports Club. Okay, so chapter 4, class A, digital electronics communication circuits. So in this topic, this is the topic that we'll be discussing about encoder. We'll be discussing about decoder. We'll be discussing about multiplexer. We'll be discussing about the multiplexer. We'll be discussing about the half adder. We'll be discussing about the full adder. We'll be discussing about the counters. In this topic, actually that, we'll be discussing about amplifiers. We'll be discussing about integrators, about differentiators, about filters, about what? Oscillators. But remember that to mention them is simple, but time will not be enough for us to cover all of those stuff. Okay? But I will try my level best to build a strong foundation in your mind. So you may go further. So the 5th chapter, or chapter 5, here is it's measurement. Measurements of what? Of electric parameters. Measurement of electric parameters in digital electronics communication system. I will ask you to review what we have taught you in electronics products fabrication. I will ask you to review what we have taught you in fundamental of analog electronics. I will ask you to review what will be taught in measurements, electronics measurements in this semester. I would like to ask you to review what you have been taught in fundamental of digital electronics in this semester, because we need those skills to apply in this model. Are we together? So it's a busy semester, more than semester 1. Because we know you have some information. And because we know that you have some information, we'll never repeat them. We'll ask you to refer. Okay? For instance, design linear power supply. It's coming ahead. Do you remember how we are designing? I ask you to design and then I give you the time. Do you remember? Okay, chapter 6. Tell your neighbor chapter 6. Tell your neighbor chapter 6. Tell your neighbor chapter 6. Because if you be discussing about encoder, the encoder cannot work without power. Right? Integrator cannot work without what? So the sort of power we have covered in semester 1. So chapter 16, it's maintenance. Maintenance of electronics communication system. Electronics communication what? System. Class A electronics, not electronics, say maintenance first. Of what? Electronics communication system. So this relating with which sub-enabling outcome? Peter? Or chapter 6, relating with which sub-enabling outcome? Peter is not there. Johanna Samandito? This 6th chapter, chapter 6, relating with which sub-enabling outcome? Sub-enabling outcome number 4. So this one relating with the 4 sub-enabling outcome. There's a relationship between these 7 chapters with what I've been presenting. It's still the big picture. Okay? Yes, because for you say, sub-enabling outcome is workshop 0. Today it is related task and duty. And the chapter. Chapter 7. So the 7th chapter is connecting different electronics communication system parts. So ask your neighbor. Chapter 7 relating with which sub-enabling outcome? You don't ask your neighbor. Is your neighbor tired? Tell your neighbor you are just starting. This is your first lecture for today. So the 7th chapter is connecting different electronics communication system parts. It is connecting different electronics communication system parts. That is the 7th chapter. So class, stop writing. Where did we end? In our reading, to make sure to write the information, chapter 4, Kankesha. Where did we end? You don't remember. Zuena? Sonia? Where did we end? Sonia is not there. Sonia is actual. So 1, 2, 3. Measurements of electrical parameters in digital electronics communication system. Let us go. The next is chapter 6, maintenance of electronics communication system. Then chapter 7, connecting different electronics communication system parts. So once we complete chapter 7, then from there we say that, wow, now you are electronic communication engineer. You have something in your mind about electronics communication engineering. Okay, to end this workshop, this is homework 1. Homework 1, it's a very simple question, but it's not simple the way you think. But the question is, explain briefly the meaning of the word called the data sheet and its main parts. That's the simple question. Explain briefly the meaning of the word data sheet. Class, say data sheet. Say data sheet. And its main parts. Every data sheet, or most of the data sheet, electronics data sheets, they have main parts. I don't tell you that how many a day, just to go and find. And then that will be our workshop 2. Our workshop 2 will be just talking about data sheet, because data sheet, I have to teach you about the mind of manufacturers or electronics manufacturers of different electronics parts and different electronics instruments. So that homework is very, very important. Make sure that you do it before we meet in the next workshop. So when I tell you that you have to do it, I don't ask you to go and write for me. Write for yourself. Read. Go in those books, just to try to check them if they have explained about data sheet. Use the online sources effectively. Read, understand, write the summary of what you have understood. In any workshop or in any day, I might ask you, And when I will ask you, I need that you have already something in your hand. Are we together? Yeah, so make sure that you do it effectively, you read it, you understand. Okay, I would like to give you a chance. If there's any question about what you have learned today, ask it now. Okay, did you understand what we have covered today? Simply, what did we cover? What are the main parts that we have covered today? You said you have understood. Then I'm trying to check what you have understood. Possibly you have understood poison. In a simple language, what are the main parts that we have covered today? Related? Very good. Related tasks for each sub-enabling outcome. Another main part? Chapters of 40, electronics communication laboratory. So let me ask you, do you receive the information that I gave you, or you don't want to receive? You received. Did you understand what I have taught you, or you did not understand? Eh? Pardon? You didn't understand? You have understood. Okay, so let me congratulate you. Congratulations if you have understood. That is one step. So I always appreciate you if you understand, and I congratulate you. 1, 2, 3. Hongera. Imara. Wow, for understanding about workshop 1. So that's the end of our today's workshop. Make sure that you do this homework, and make sure that you review all of these contents. But in case you have any questions or you have any challenge, let me know, because we are still in introduction. My expectation is to make sure that to have all the students, physical students and online students, and to move with them smoothly from the beginning to the end without losing any of them. That is my mission, that is my vision, that is my expectation. Are we together? One thing which I want to tell you, that keep loving communication engineering or telecommunication engineering, and also make sure that you have a good stamina, because the material we have, there are so many. Some of them will cover in class, some of them I will give you as assignment, as a task that you have to go and read them. Are we together? Yeah, so if that's the case, I would like to say thank you very much for coming. Keep inviting others to make sure that we join together, because my intention is to make sure that to teach you what just I know about this system. I don't know everything. I'm always learning. I believe that even in this course and with this class, I'll be learning new materials. That's my expectation. So whenever I come to your class, I will be acting as the teacher. Simultaneously, I will be a student, because there are new materials always I used to learn when I teach people about what I know. Are we together? Yes, but another thing is, which I want to tell you publicly, and I would like to intend that. The intention of this course to prepare the electronics engineers, electronics and telecommunication engineers. But also, we have a scarcity of good teachers in electronics and telecommunication engineering, especially in our own country. In case that you feel you have passion of teaching this stuff, please come and consult me. I have gathered different teaching aids and teaching skills for almost 14 years. I want also to produce teachers who will teach this stuff more than how I do. Can I repeat that information? Among you, there are some who have a passion of teaching. Not all of you. And teaching is not for everybody. Right? So in case you feel that you have a passion of teaching, electronics, engineering, telecommunication, engineering, mathematics, I don't know, physics, science, or chemistry, science, whatever that. I think that a lot of stuff that relating with science and engineering, maybe programming. Your interest is teaching about how to write programs and does programs actually that perform the task. Don't hesitate yourself. In this semester, I'll try my level best to make sure that at least in a week, I meet with teachers. Right? Because engineer produce another engineer. A teacher produce other teachers. Are we together? So use that opportunity in case that you have that passion. I believe that we'll see you also teaching some other guys more than how I do, and even more than some other some present teachers used to teach. Are we together? If that's the case, I love you. I appreciate you. May God bless you. See you in the next workshop.
Mungu ibariki Tanzania, dumisha uhuru na umoja.